in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal young lady I had the pleasure of recently meeting. We were part of a virtual event, actually, and she has a powerful testimony to share. She is an author, she's a podcast host, she's a public speaker, and most importantly, though, she's a woman of God who's taken time out of her busy schedule to join with us to again share a little bit of portion of her life on and how God has moved and done miraculous and remarkable things in moments of challenges and adversities in life with the hopes of encouraging and inspiring others through the telling of her story. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Miss Michaelia Nobles. Michaelia, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It is here. Thank you for time to, consider me to be on the show. I really do
Oh,
appreciate it.
Oh, that was easy for me. After I had an opportunity to meet you, you were definitely in my mind as somebody to have on for the upcoming season, and then for you to have reached out to me as you did, that was just further confirmation. So I was like, okay, we on the same page. We're good to go. So this is gonna work out just fine. So Michaela, before we jump into our segments, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit of something about yourself. You know who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give the audience a taste of who is Michaelia Nobles.
So, as already introduced, I am Michaelia Nobles. I am a podcast host. I have a podcast called Just Keep It Real. It has been going strong for a little over a year now. We have done again 4 seasons. We are approaching season 5, which is very, very exciting for me to be doing this for over a little over a year. I also am an author. Just published my book, "Pain Raised Me, but Trauma Healed Me," which is a memoir about my life and everything that I have went through. Besides that, I am also a public speaker. I do certain small engagements, mostly virtual, but am open to doing in-person engagements as well. But I am from Dallas, Texas. I am also a student. I am approaching my still in my junior year. I am doing I'm sorry, broadcast communication. So I'm really looking forward to getting into like the TV scene, the radio scene, so that way I can make my message be at a broader audience. So with everything going smooth, according to God's plan, I will be done with that soon, and I gotta be worried about going to school no more. But that's kind of all what I got going on right now, and just working and just trying to keep up everything, keeping up, maintaining my podcast, my book, and just also growing my brand.
Awesome, awesome. That is really exciting to hear. And again, we like you and I have some commonalities. We both kind of started our podcast around the same time, been over a little bit over a year, and and then with the books and and all the other things that we're looking to pursue. It's definitely exciting to hear that from other people and be able to relate to the excitement as well as to the challenges that come along with that because it's a lot and you're wanting to do your work at the highest of levels and hoping to impact and change lives and things of that nature. And I'm a firm believer, as I'm sure you are, that everybody has a story to tell. And so when you can sit down and tell it and be transparent and vulnerable like that, it's definitely an opportunity to share a powerful message with people who need to hear, who need to experience it from someone else and know that they're not the only ones out here that go through difficult and challenging times, but also that even when you go through those difficult and challenging moments, that we do serve a God that is able to deliver you through those moments,
Yes.
and it ends up being worthwhile when in the end it ends up being worthwhile the struggle that might have seemed to be impossible to overcome, if you will. So appreciate you sharing that little tidbit, and of course for our audience, we're going to learn a lot more about you and your story as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Whenever I bring people on to the show as guests, I always am a firm believer about the importance and the significance of us going back to the beginnings of where the journey begins, because so much happens early on in life and in our upbringing, the people who are around us, the stories that we're told, and the experiences that we go through that really shape what ultimately becomes our journey, our purpose in life. And while we may not at that moment understand why we're going through or experiencing what we're experiencing, as we move along in life and those experiences begin to pile up, you begin to connect the dots and figure out, okay, Lord, this is why you had me go through this. This is why I needed to meet this person and go through this situation at this particular point in time. So that said, I want to kind of take that moment with you for a few, where we kind of go back to the beginnings, and if you would, kind of share with us what was it like for you growing up. Fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any particular challenges that come to mind that you care to share, you can do that as well. But just kind of give us that foundational basis of where your story begins.
Okay, so growing up, I grew up in a two-parent household. It was like, to me, I describe it as like a picture perfect dream because everybody's like, "Oh, I want that white picket fence, the American dream, the white picket fence
Mm-hmm.
dream." So I can that's kind of how I describe my childhood. As a child, I was, older brother. I was the baby, so I loved the attention. And it was my mom and my dad. So growing up, I grew up in a suburban neighborhood. So it wasn't too bad growing up. Fun memories, I was like the way I was raised, I could say I had a decent childhood. My grandmother lived across the street from us, and she was very like a lot of my fun moments came from both my household and hers combined
Mm-hmm.
because she kept us grounded. And we weren't allowed to do certain things, and we wasn't allowed to go to certain places for certain reasons. So she kept us like we were outside kids. Like you were gonna be outside regardless if it was the only time you didn't go outside if it was snow. I mean, when it was like storming, like hailing outside, that's the only time you couldn't go. But if it was snow, bundle up, y'all going outside. Y'all gonna play in this snow. But she just kept us like engaged and we did certain activities that just not some kids like in this generation would never understand. Like being cooped up in the house, we used to play board games, just have like that time, like family time. My grandmother was like the pillar of the family. She was very much big on like everybody spending time together. On like holidays, we'll all come over. Birthdays, we'll celebrate it at her house, and those were like fun memories. So I would say things started to change for me. Like my childhood took a shift when I became around approaches the age of 7 to 8. My father became an alcoholic. And that's what really started to take a toll on my childhood. My childhood was fun for the most part. It was like to like sunshines and rainbows for me. Because like I said, I was the baby of the family, I had an older brother. We were cool, we were close. And I lived across the street from my grandmother. My cousins came over. We had the like I said, it was a rain shine. I mean, sunshine and rainbow type of life for me. But after my father became alcoholic, that's when things took a turn. When I the first challenge I realized with my father was I was too young to understand it at first. I really was. But as I got older, I understood, the manipulation tactic behind it. But my father used to do this thing and I also talk about it in my book, but this was like my definite like starting point when I started really like something is not right here. Because he used to do this thing where like if I made him mad, he used to be like, "Oh, I have another daughter." And like I said, at the time I didn't know. I know now I'm his only child. But
Mm-hmm.
at the time I didn't know that. So when you tell me you have another child and that you love her more than me, that kind of like slowly started tearing on my self-esteem because then that was like my knight in shining armor. I was a daddy's girl, so I will be under my dad all the time, 24/7. You could not get me away from this man. So when you slowly start telling me you got another daughter and you're gonna go take her to do all this fun stuff and you're not gonna take me no more because you're mad at me, that slowly started tearing on my self-esteem. Like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, I really started questioning myself. And then from there, it started to build up and up. So he started becoming very more mean towards my mother. Then that turned into like when I got to the age about 9 or 10, it redirected towards me. And my parents never put me in a position where I had to choose between one or the other. But certain times, like I had health issues as a child. I had asthma, and my asthma was very, very bad. Like I used to have like we used to carry a nebulizer around us all the time because my it was like every other day I would have an asthma attack, which was hard for my mom because like now she's trying to have to like navigate that and everything, working, having to provide for the family, and also have to deal with a child that has like now an illness. And on top of that, I was going through school. I was being bullied at school, which she didn't know because I didn't tell nobody about the bullying. But because I didn't have a good self esteem, my self esteem was getting lower and lower by the day. Going to school, bullies that see that, you become an easy
Mhm.
target for them because they know, okay, yeah, she don't know, she don't know herself. So I was getting bullied a lot, and being bullied, I was being bullied by people that I would call my friends. So getting picked on, and then also being the one that can't go outside on certain times, can't do everything because I have asthma, that's even more giving them more ammunition to bully me. So I wasn't open about that. I wasn't telling nobody about that. So I was getting pretty much teamed up. I was getting teamed up at home, and I was getting teamed at school. So I
Mm.
had like no time to really just like, dang, I ain't gotta worry about being picked on. I was getting picked on both places at that point. But still going through that, my mom was really the one that was there through all those rough moments, like those hospital nights with the asthma getting flaring up really, really bad. Those late nights when I'm sick or doing something, my mom was there. So I started seeing, like I said, my mom, they never put me in a position to choose. I just felt like I had to choose because it was just like if I'm close to one, the other one is like you could see the riffraff between the two. So I just kind of like stayed. I'm like, well, I don't want to choose between two parents because I love them both. I mean, they're different. Like one's my dad, one's my mom. But like I said, they never physically told me like you need to choose which parent. My mom never put me in that position. Neither did my dad. But as a child, I felt like I had to choose
Mhm.
because I'm seeing one doing more than the other. Like my dad lived in a household with us, so it was like no excuse for him not to do what my mom was doing. It's just like she had that more, the burden was more on her because she was just like, pretty much became a single parent, but married.
Mm.
So she was like raised and have to deal with everything like the man is supposed to deal with, but she had to deal with that. So I started seeing my mom be more and more and more present in my life. Like I said, those late nights where you can't sleep, the sickness, the going to the hospitals, the doctors, like the taking the time to being a nurturing parent. I started seeing her more than I saw him. So gradually, I moved towards her because I'm like, she's the one that's there for me all the time. Every time I look up, and it's not like you don't have the opportunity to not be there. You have the same opportunity that she has, but you're not taking it. So why would like so that kind of deteriorated our relationship. And then, like I said, when I got about 9, 10, his anger swifted to me. So still growing up, by the time I was 12, me and my dad had our first physical altercation.
Mm.
You could tell they wanted a boy because, my mom had already had a boy, but they got me. So that's nothing wrong with that. They got me. But you can tell they were like, but I was one of those kids, like I was a tomboy. So I like to wrestle. I grew up watching WWE and saw some tapes of WWF too
Mhm.
with that real wrestling. So I grew up like that, and I used to play football, like tackle football, like in the ground with the boys. So that I just grew up rough, and that helped me later on in life. But as a child, I used to wrestle with my brother all the time. I used to wrestle with my dad all the time. One particular time, I guess we were play wrestling because we used to play wrestle. I guess I had hit him too hard or something, but it shifted to him. And like he like had me in a mood that like I was like slowly couldn't breathe. So I'm like, okay, dad, I tap out. I'm done. Like, what's going on? And he held it. So now I'm like freaking out because I'm just like, I'm saying I give up. Why aren't you letting me go? So I started yelling, and my brother, whose room was across the hall from my parents' room, like rushed in, and like that's the first time I seen him and my brother fall. Cause my brother was like, "She's a girl. You're supposed to let her go. Like I get it, she wrestles, but she's a girl. You can't be holding on her like that." And then like that kind of like my mom and him got into it that night. I had to stay with my grandmother, and like that kind of like was like a way like my grandmother used to be like, "It's okay. Sometimes grown people just don't get along, but that doesn't mean they don't love each other." So just like I said, it's like like slowly the dream that I was thinking my family was like started to shatter in pieces, and I'm still like trying to put the pieces together, but that wasn't my place to. But by the time I got older, me and my father, we at this point our relationship was like oil and water. We did not get along at all. And his verbal abuse became more aggressive than it was when I was a child. He
Mm.
started telling me like things like, "Oh, I don't got time to sit." Like I asked him because I was big in sports. My first year of varsity, I asked him to come watch me play because I was starting. As a 17, like at the point I was like 16. As an early child, you get your first opportunity to start on varsity. That's a big deal. A lot of people don't start on varsity their first year. You know, you are substitution at that point. So you get subbed in if the main ones don't go, some go wrong. But it was like my coach was like, I'm gonna put you starting. And I'm just like, what? This is big. So I asked him, my mama came, my aunts came, my uncles came. I asked my dad, I said, can you come? You know, it's my first year. I'm starting. And he sat there, lit me eye to eye, and told me, I don't got time to sit and watch you hit a ball. That destroyed me because I'm just like, out of all people, I'm giving you an opportunity to build this relationship back up with me, but you tell me you don't got time to sit and watch me hit a ball. And like softball, you play in the beginning of spring, and that's when the weathers ain't always peaches and cream. You play and it's blurring cold outside. It could be raining. It could be you play in some kind of like I wouldn't say harsh conditions, but you play like the kind of same conditions as a football player would play. Because when
Mm-hmm.
it's raining, they out there playing. It may be sprinkling. We still out there playing. So my mom, she be out there bundled up and all, watching me hit a ball. So I'm just like, that hurt my self esteem. But we had like other altercations, physical altercations. We've had three out of my entire life. The last altercation we had, I was in college. I was about 18, 17, 18. No, yeah, 18, because it was a summer. It was I was 18 years old. And me and him had got into it really bad. It actually started with me and my mom. Me and my mom were having like a disagreement. And he jumped in. And I was just like, go sit down. Like, no, this ain't got nothing to do with you. Go sit down somewhere. So we were kind of going back and forth, having words, not saying that I was right, because as a child, you're not supposed to, disrespect your parents. But at that time, me and him had so much going on, like just daily by day. You calling me out my name, telling me I'm not gonna be nothing, that I'm dumb, that I'm stupid, that I act just like my mom, who he called her dumb and stupid. So I was like, we were both catching the end of the stick. We were both getting like told off every day. Like you wake up picking at us. Like who does that? So growing up in that, like I had developed like a hard interior. I had to learn like you can't be weak. You can't do certain things. So I had to grow up quick and know that I couldn't, and I became more like a ruthless interior. So because I was going through so much, I started just acting out, being disrespectful to whoever at this point, because I'm just like, ain't nobody taking the time out to talk to me. Nobody's trying to talk to me, explain to me that what I'm going through, that I'm thinking it's my fault, because it all boils down to that little girl who was told that I got somebody else. So I'm like, nobody's telling me like there's nothing wrong with you. This is something that he's dealing with. This is his decision. Nobody was taking that time out to tell me that. Granted, I grew up in a very loving family, very loving, praying. All of my whole family, believers of Christ, firm believers. They stand on the word. So I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up in a family of love. But like I said, I just wasn't getting that personal one-on-one time, being told this is not your fault. So I'm thinking this is my fault. So at this point, don't nobody else care. So why should I care about myself? So I started doing the same things, like running around with the wrong crowd, jumping in cars with people that I didn't know, hanging out, staying past curfew, doing stuff literally my mom. And then I feel bad because she took a lot of my anger. I had a lot of resentment towards her too, because everybody's like, "Oh, it's your father," and like, no, I had resentment towards her too, and I had to really come to the realization. I'm trying not to get emotional, but it came down to that realization, like during that time, like I was very mean to her.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I have a younger sibling, so that was kind of hard for her. She has now an out of control teenager and a little child she has to look after while trying to help be the head of the household as well. Because at this point they're still together, but it's just hard for her. Like I didn't understand. Like growing up, like now that I'm grown, I look back, I see it. But at that time, I wasn't looking at it. I was just like, I'm hurting. Like nobody's trying to tell me. Nobody's checking on me. So why should I care that I'm making you hurt? I've been hurting for all this time. I've been hurting like literally every important moment as a child, as a teenager. You would think your father would be the first to be there. It wasn't. My mother was there, and at this point, my mom's brother, he stepped in a crucial point in my life that I was like going, like I said, that ruthless teenager, that ruthless person had came up because my pain actually did raise me because I was raised by my pain and nobody was addressing it. I was put in therapy, but that's because, like I said, I was being bullied as a child. One particular point, I had a breaking point and I threw some scissors at a girl. And then I like grabbed the chair and getting ready to launch it. So they put me in therapy because they wanted me to control my anger. They
Mm-hmm.
wasn't trying to understand why was I angry, or like you said, get to the beginning. Let's get to the roots of the problem. Why? What caused this girl to just, mind you, I ain't never had that type of behavior. So there's like, we need to see why she's doing like this. And the only person that was kind of like really getting the understanding about it was my school counselor. She was the only person that knew about the bullying because every time they would pick at me, I would go to her and she would document everything, letting them like saying that, hey, she came to me, this is bullying. And she been tried to tell the principal because they were trying to expel me at first. And she was like, well, if y'all expel her, her mom got grounds to sue because I've been told y'all this girl's been being bullied. So we just sat down and watched this girl get bullied and none of us did nothing about it. As a counselor, she can do all she can, but she had to report it. And if the people that she reports to start doing nothing about it, what can she do? So it's like her hands were tied because she kept telling them every time, hey, y'all need to put these kids in this office. They're bullying her. This is bullying, but nobody was doing that. So at that point, I had like growing up in that, going to anger management, because that's what I call it, anger management. Going to anger management, that wasn't helping. Like it was like, well, okay, can she control her anger? I was like, yeah, she has these steps. So every time I got angry, my teacher had to pull me into the hallway and be like, okay, step one, breathe, this, and that. I'm just like, y'all not caring to see why I'm
Mm-hmm.
mad. Y'all just want to see if I can manage it, but y'all not understanding why I'm mad. So, like I said, that furthered into like nobody cares, so why should I care type of thing. So I'm still going through that, still dealing with that. Like I said, now at this point, I done went through all this through teenage years, pain, being ruthless, being disrespectful. Now I'm at this point, this altercation with my dad. Like I said, now we're bad. We can't even say two words to each other. So he said something. Like my mom was like telling me to go in my room, and I was walking away. I like one thing I did learn from growing up in that household and growing up tough. You never turn your back on your enemy. You turn around and you walk backwards. So I did learn that. So I was walking backwards and he swung on me. And like in the defense, like I pushed him, like, whoa, what was this? What you swinging on me for? So then he charged at me. And then at that point, my mind went into defend yourself. Because at this point, I was like, I had came to realization like nobody's coming to save me. So I gotta save myself at this point. It's every man for himself, and it's between me and another person. I'm choosing myself. So when he charged at me, I took that initiative, like, okay, it's time to go to bat. That was like our first bad physical altercation, like where he laid his hands on me.
Mm-hmm.
Other ones, like, somebody was there to break it up. Somebody was there, like, okay, y'all getting too wild, calm down. But this was the first one that we're like, yeah, my mom was in the middle of it because my mom was trying to break it up. But this was the first one that we had that where like he threw hands on me. So I was fighting him, and then like he actually like punched me in my eye, and I had to end up staying with my some relatives for a week. And during that time, I could say that was my most difficult time. The
Mm-hmm.
most difficult time as like in the beginning stages because I was so confused. I'm like, granted, yes, you have done a lot to me, but I never would think you would stoop that low. I feel like that's the lowest you could have ever done because we passed low at this point. Because low is when we pass low if you could call your daughter a female dog. We passed that point. I feel like the lowest you could ever do to me is put your hands on me because you've already done beyond low. I said that's the lowest of low you can ever do to do to me is put your hands on me. And the second day, like as I was staying with my relatives, I saw my eye was black and blue. That made it worse for me because now I'm just like, well, is it okay for a man to hit a woman? Like I really started thinking that. I mean, growing up, I knew it wasn't okay, but it's different when you are the one that gets hit. It's
Hmm.
different. So I was just like, well, I guess it's okay in some way. I mean, part of me, I got majority, like, I'm like, you know, how you got like those two people on your shoulder, one
Hmm.
telling you yes, one telling you no. I felt like that because I'm like, I know this is not okay. I know he's not supposed to do this. But at the same time, I'm just like, it's a conflict because I'm just like, well, he's my dad. I guess he was trying to correct me, but I'm just like, no,
Hmm.
y'all wasn't, there was no correction. He swung on you and like you defended yourself. So how is that okay? And literally my bishop now, at the time I wasn't going to this church, but the church I go to now, my bishop, I actually had a relationship with them before I actually became a member, which when I did started coming to this church, the transition was so easier because I had already had a relationship with them prior to me becoming a member. But my aunt who attended the church. She had took me there. She had I think she had like rehearsal or something. But she took me there and she asked me, she's like, do you feel comfortable having a conversation with them? Because at this point I wasn't talking to my leaders about it at all because they kind of like I wouldn't say they made me seem like it was my fault, but they pretty much was like I had to do I it was like the position I was the ball was in my court pretty much. Like
Hmm.
I should have been the one reaching out. And I'm just like I'm not doing that. This is his problem. Why do I have to like so like I said, it further pushed into that bold. Nobody's listening to me. So why should I care about why do y'all care about my life and y'all not taking the time to see why am I acting this way? What's pushing me to do this? Like y'all not taking that time out. So I'm gonna continue to do me at this point. And that was my favorite word. I'm gonna do me. So she was like, do you feel comfortable talking to them? And in that moment, that time I actually felt heard because they let me get it all out. And my first lady now, like that's my other mama. I love her to death. That moment she comforted me and gave me the need like the support I didn't even know I needed, the comfort I didn't even know I needed. Because I was like past broken, past broken. I'm just
Hmm.
like, this has been my life. For 18 years I've been going through this. This has been my life. Being told I'm nothing, being called everything but my name, being told I'm never gonna make it, being told I'm dumb and stupid, just like my mom, which I know my mom is not dumb and stupid, but this has been my life. So I don't know nothing else. This is life to me. This is normal to me. So I didn't know I needed that comfort that
Hmm.
she gave me at that moment. I didn't even know that. In that moment, they talked to me, they prayed with me, and they encouraged me. That kind of gave me like, okay, it's a possibility that there can be hope. But still going back into that, that's kind of where the more the resentment toward my mom came at that point. Because like I said, I grew up in it. My mom finally had enough, I was grown at this point when she finally walked away. But that's just kind of what like the beginnings was for me, like growing through house of abuse, not being told that it's not your fault, not having that person come to you and be like, hey, I see what you're going through. Now granted, my grandmother was that one for me. My grandmother did become like after that point, like she seen the physical violence between me and him, she really started being that comfort, that my safe space. She started doing that. So I can't say nobody because like she became my safe space after a while.
Hmm.
And she was like the one that was like, baby, I understand. And sometimes my granny would never say nothing. I would just go to her house and cry. I'm like, just I would lay on her and cry. Mind you, I wasn't big, but my grandmother she was a little bit smaller than me. And I would just lay all across her like I'm a child and just cry. In that moment, she'd just be like, she would just hold me. She would never say nothing. But in that moment, I knew she understood
Hmm.
because she went through that too, and that's something my mom went through too. So in that moment, words can never explain, you know, what it means in that moment to have somebody just to like not say nothing, but just let you know that I
Hmm.
understand. For me, that was big because, like I said, I wasn't getting no verbal confirmation. Nobody was telling me, but for my grandmother to do that for me, that just gave me like that kind of what gave me hope that maybe I won't have to go through this. maybe when I get older, I can leave and I don't have to deal with this no more. But that was just like the beginning for me.
Wow. Wow. Um, very, very powerful. In the sharing of your story here. So I want to first off say I appreciate your transparency. And I know this was a long story for the beginning portion of it, and just for my listeners, I don't, and even for you, I don't like to interfere in that moment. I want you to get out what you need to get out, because sometimes platforms like this, for some, may be one of those moments where you can feel comfortable in releasing as you've done, and I appreciate that. You had as you stated, it was pretty much a roller coaster ride just from the beginnings, from your childhood years, and just so my listeners understand, if you don't mind sharing, if you would, you're a young adult, like, if you would tell the audience how old you are right now.
I am 24 years old.
Okay, so we're talking about 24-year-old who just told you what 18 years basically looked like, for her. I have to go back to the start of your story where you say it was kind of like, I got this two-parent household with the, sort of the picket fence mentality, and while that is, living in the suburbs, and while that's always a good setup backdrop, if you will, I think one of the immediate things that you spoke to about that is how a lot of times people will get caught up into thinking that just because that's one setup, that everything is all rosy and perfect and great, and you just have no idea that there are some people who, even if they live in what appears to be the American dream type setup backdrop, that there may be some pain and some suffering and some frustrations and some challenges going on, which is why it brought to mind for me right away was a lesson that my mom, spoke about all the time when I was growing up, and saying that, never be envious about what other people have. No, never be jealous about what other people have, because you don't know what price might be being paid for that. And in this situation, unfortunately, you had to pay some price for, had to pay a price for what appeared to be a picture perfect setting, where people didn't necessarily know that you were being bullied, where people didn't necessarily know that you were having, challenges starting off with your dad, somebody who at first you were kind of like relationship with my daughter and myself, where, that daddy's girl, type of scenario. So when you have a daughter as a father who, she thinks the world of you, the ground you walk on means everything to her, and then all of a sudden, in a moment where which these things happen between parents, and a parent and a child, where sometimes you're going to have a disagreement about something, but when it goes beyond us just having a disagreement to now you making me feel like as if, you don't care about me, by throwing out there that, about this other daughter that doesn't exist, but you knew that saying that would hurt me. So now the thing that I'm thinking about is, now we're going into a control, type situation. I want to control you. I know you think the world of me, but I don't ever want you to drift from me. So I want to control you first by starting off verbally controlling you by making up stories about things like that, or speaking bad towards you in terms of telling you you're not worth this, or you're not good for that, or that you're less than. Nothing that I would ever condone any parent, to do, but nevertheless, again, using, manipulative and controlling, strategies, if you will, to just try to gain an advantage over your child is definitely not something that any parent should do, even in the midst of frustration or anger. That should never be a thing to happen. So, I feel bad that you had to go through that, and then, but I think the most powerful message in everything that you shared was about, you kept repeating over and over as you were sharing through your story, in the beginnings portion of your story, about not being heard, and I think that is so powerful. Like, I'm saying to you, yeah, I'm going through all of this, I'm feeling some kind of way, but the people who should have been hearing me just seem to not be hearing me. It's like they weren't hearing my cry, they weren't feeling my pain. And then the ones who did step in, who were trying to help in some way, it was almost like they wanted to give you the book answer to fixing your problems. Here's the steps to calm down, here's the steps to do this. And not to say that that information isn't good, but you know relate to me, find out, get to the source of why this is happening, why I'm feeling this way, not just trying to randomly give me these, what seemed to be empty words of advisement, because it's almost and you can confirm if I'm getting into this the right way, but it almost feels like you're just telling me just enough to make me go away. You're telling me just enough to avoid possibly getting deeper into the root of what it is that's going on with me and why I'm feeling. Yeah, we know the obvious stuff. I'm getting hit. I'm getting talked to any old kind of way or whatever. But are we getting deep? Like, why is this even going on? Why am I being subject to this? What is happening? What is the root to the problem? So, I appreciate you kind of walking through that, because there's a lot of people who have that same kind of response in moments where they're feeling abuse at some level. Like, why is this happening? What is the purpose of it all? That's even when you think about as a believer, that's one of the challenges that we oftentimes have in conversations that we have with God. It's like, okay, Lord, this storm came. Why
Mm-hmm.
why am I here? Why when I'm nice to people, why when I do people one way, which is supposedly in alignment with how you say I should treat people, and why is it that when it's my turn, I get the complete opposite of that? What is it that I'm supposed to get out of that? And that's what's so valuable about going through storms, because on the surface of it all, it can be confusing. It can be misleading in the sense, like, why am I having to go through what I'm having to go through? What did I do wrong? You know, why am I feeling this sense of abandonment? Why am I feeling this sense of, being left out and isolated? What am I supposed to get out of this? And that kind of ties into our title for the show today. Like, and you kind of reiterated that. If pain could teach you something, what's supposed to be the lesson in this? That's a very relatable question, believer or non-believer, that we all have. Like, what am I supposed to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
What is this
Yeah.
supposed to mean? What is the good in this? Uh, Again, as a believer, you learn over time that even in the midst of your pain, that there is something that you get out of it, that there is a bigger purpose, there is a bigger meaning. But when you're going through it, it doesn't quite, you ain't quite feeling that. All I know is that I'm hurting. I'm going through, and I don't like it, and I want it to all go away, and I want people to just to hear me, to feel me. And just lastly, on your first part of your story, is when you talked about your grandmother. Like, one of the reasons why you love to go to her, because you talked about how she wouldn't even always even have something to say. It was her presence. And that's one of the best ways to come along somebody that is hurting. Sometimes it's not even about the words that you have to say. Because most times when we call ourselves speaking on something, we oftentimes in those moments end up saying the wrong thing. Sometimes it's just enough to just be a listening ear. Sometimes it's just enough to just be a shoulder to lean on. Sometimes it's just enough you just need a hug. And to let you have that moment to get out whatever it is that you need to get out. And then after you've given that person that opportunity to unload, then with the right timing and with the right words, you can perhaps come alongside to them genuinely and authentically with a desire to pour into them and to be of help to them, not just say what sounds good to say or just to rush me off, if you will. So many different dynamics that came up in just the beginning portions of your story here, starting with what childhood was like for you, and again, I appreciate your transparency and sharing that. But what I'd like to transition into is, so you have this chunk of everything that's going on in childhood. Literally, more than three-fourths of your life is this existence. You're frustrated. You're annoyed. You're angry. You actually have a foundation in Christ, and you're still going through all of this. So, and so I guess I want to build up on that, and ask you. So, what was ultimately the turning point in this moment? With all that you've gone through, with all of the weight and the pressure that's on your shoulders, with all of this, what was that turning point where you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel, where it finally, you felt like, I'm coming up out of this, and I'm starting to put the pieces together and making some sense of it to be able to move forward, and heal and progress in what has otherwise been a tremendous storm in my life? What does that process look like for you in the midst of this situation that you've shared with us?
So I have usually kind of have like two turning points, but I have one. I would say two because it was the one that initially started the process, the
Mm-hmm.
turning point, and then I have the one that really pushed me to getting into the process. So the first turning point for me was, like I said, we didn't I stayed in this for 22 years.
Hmm.
I lived with him for 22 years. So when I was around 20, this particular night at this point, grown, I was just doing the most things that I wasn't raised to do. I was just doing it because, like I said, I was hurt. And now growing up, now you 20, so now you got a real big head. You 20, you can do whatever you want to at this point. Not You can't do everything you want to when you 21. You can, but it's I was acting grown at 16. So, but this particular night, I was in my room and it was just I had these thoughts of suicide. Now growing up, I used to say I want to kill myself before, but I never really thought about it like this deep, like I was this
Hmm.
night. And I was just laying down and I was just thinking about my life. I said, this is, and I'm 20, and I'm like, at this point, I had been dreaming, fantasizing about the day where I don't have to go through abuse anymore. And I'm just like, this day is never gonna come. Here I am, 20 years old. I've made so many accomplishments from a child. I mean, not from child, for teenage to now being a young adult that is not being taken into consideration. Like I made second team all district, that I graduated from college, that, so many things that, people celebrated, but I'm just like, the one I want to celebrate me is not celebrating me,
Hmm.
but it's still causing me, still talking about me crazy, still doing this to me, still being mean to me. And I'm constantly watching him like drink and do all this stuff that I'm like, you are not considering me at all. You have not considered at this point. I'm just like, this this is my life. This is gonna forever be my life. The only time I'm gonna get out is when I'm moving out. That's the only time I'm gonna get away. But even then, I didn't even think that was gonna happen because I was applying for like, universities and like emergency stuff like that, like trying to get into their housing programs and stuff like that to try to get me away from that. But it's just like even then it was like nothing was moving. Things were just going so slow. And I'm just like, God, this is my life. I'm like, why do I have to be the one to go through this? And then by sitting that, the enemy was just like literally told me this word for word verbatim. You know you can end it all right now, right? And I
Hmm.
was just looking, I'm just
Hmm.
like, what? And then he just started putting in those thoughts, you can end it all. And I had like, medication in my room. I had like Advil and stuff like that. He said you could overdose. I was looking at the pills. He's like, you can overdose right now, make it easy. He said, or you go in a bathtub, you could drown yourself, or you could just like, so certain things. And I'm just like, part of me, I'm like, I was thinking like, well, I was like, I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to do that. But he's like, but when you die, all the pain could be over. And it's just like I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this, and I'm just like, yeah, but I don't gotta like. And I started thinking about life without pain. Don't have to wake up in this. Don't gotta deal with this no more. But I'm thinking like I'm leaving behind my younger sibling, my mama, my brother. I'm leaving behind my family, friends that care about me. I'm leaving behind people that were hurt deeply if I was to take this route. So I'm just like, no, I don't want to die. I don't want to do that. And when I said I didn't want to do that, it's like his attack became more aggressive. So he started throwing all these different scenarios that if you know, pain is always gonna be around. I'm always gonna have to deal with this. My dad's never gonna change. You might as well kill yourself before he kills you, and this and this and that. Like just throwing all this different stuff, and I'm just like, it put me in a point like I'm having a panic attack. So in a ways, it was just like I could panic. Some people don't. You can like panic yourself so much where like you can hyperventilate. You can easily put your body into shock. So in other words, it's like it seemed like I was killing myself without killing
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting over here like panicking, like, okay, I don't know what to do. Like, and the only thing like I said, I grew up, I had a Christ foundation. The only thing I knew I could do was pray. At this point, we had left the church that I grew up in, and we started going to the church I attend now. And it was a Saturday night, and I remember, I'll never forget it. I just fell on my face. I was like, God, I don't know how, I don't know why, but Lord, I need you to come in because I don't want to die. And I know I don't want to kill myself. But Lord, I need you to come in and rescue me. I need you to come in and deal with me because in this moment, I just don't know what to do. So in that moment, I got peace. The thoughts had stopped. The enemy stopped attacking me. I was able to go to sleep. That next Sunday, the next day, Sunday, we go to church. I just kept feeling something was different about me. I just felt something. I was like, this something's gonna change. I don't know, but I just felt something. It just didn't feel like a regular old Sunday to me. So I got to church. We were sitting down, and my bishop he preached the sermon. Never forget. No more lip service. I used to say, I used to claim Christ only when I wanted to claim him.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say, "Oh, I'm saved and all that," but my lifestyle was not even matching it. So he was pretty. That's what he was talking about. People that say they Christians but not living the lifestyle. People that claim Christ but are doing wicked. But he's like those that are saying that they're not really saved. So he went into explaining it, and by the time, like at that point, my eyes had became open. Realization had kicked in. I'm just like, and right when he got to he started talking about how like when you come to Christ's house, there's peace, and how when you accept Christ, how your life changes and everything. But you got to make that step. And I was just thinking that by the time I was thinking, I was like, wow, Michaelia, like if I was to die right now, I know I'm not going with God. I'm gonna be eternally separated from him. And then I started thinking, what if I would have really killed myself? Then I never really would have been with him. So I'm just like, I would have left pain and went to more pain.
Mm.
Pain that I wouldn't even be able to comprehend. So in that moment, I was just like, God, I need you. So by the time my mama, it's a true story. My mom said by the time he called altar call, I pretty much pushed her to get to the altar. But I was just like, but she's like, I understood in that moment you realized that you needed God, that you had one opportunity. And it's just like I think about where God tarries with you and he deals with your heart and he's constantly tugging at you and you all constantly ignoring. God had been tugging at me. As a child, I always been told that I'm different, that I'll never fit in, that God has a plan for my life, that there's a calling on my life. I've been told this since I was a child, before I could even like walk. I've been told this. Well, as my mom been told. Then I started hearing it from 6 all the way up to now. I've always been told this. So I'm like, I got all the time in the world to get saved. That was my answer to everything. But in that moment, I'm just like, oh no, I got to give my life to Christ now. Like at this point, I
Mm-hmm.
knew my life really depended on it. So I went up there and I gave my life to Christ and accepted him as my Lord and Savior, became saved. That then gave me the glimmer of hope. That then started to shed the light at the tunnel. Then, because after that, 21st, I was still going strong. I was still in the situation, but I was doing it with God. So things started making
Mm-hmm.
sense. I'm like, you know what? Weeping may do it for a night, but joy comes in the morning. That became, I'm like, okay, God. He started showing me, he started healing me. But like I said, I can never fully heal from this man until like we're no longer in the same place. But he started dealing with me, just dealing with my heart, healing me from the things that I have put myself through, opening up doors that I didn't know what I was opening. So God started working with me, then started doing internal work. Then when we finally did, when we finally did leave my father, did leave us, I started to heal from the wounds of the past, my father. That made things a little bit more better. But even then, because that freedom I ain't never had before, a lot of people talk about like, oh, the freedom. I'm saying it's a true statement. If you don't know how to deal with freedom, when you get it, especially the ones that go through a lot, like the ones that, it's like they say always the shelter kids. When they get out, they don't know how to act.
Mm-hmm.
I agree and disagree, but for me, it's real for me because, like I said, when I got out of the situation, I didn't know. It's true, I didn't know how to act because I was like, I don't gotta. And at this point, I had got a car, so I had a new sense of freedom. I'm like, I can go and
Right.
come as I please. I don't gotta worry about you. So it was like it was a whole new perspective for me. It was a whole new life. It was like I got a brand new life now. And I want to explore all the avenues of life that I could possibly explore. But that came with a danger to it. Like it's like, I'm like, God, I thank you for taking me out of the situation. But now, God, you gave me this brand new life that I want to explore. And I want to, now that I'm grown, I want to explore it. So that kind of was a roller coaster and up and down for me. Yes, I was saved. And yes, I had gave my life to Christ. Yes, I was baptized. But people don't understand like the realness about it and why I'm so transparent. Like I definitely had a backsliding stage. Definitely had a straddling the fence stage. Even being saved, people don't understand like
Hmm.
challenges. Like the attack is real. The enemy
Yes.
is real. You don't. This is not just like. And sometimes, like with me, I know I willingly did some things. I willingly chose put things before God. Not things I'm not proud of, but I knew it was part of it. It taught me something. So once we got out the situation, that's kind of how that process started. Yes, I was still going through, the therapy, but at that point, I was, still trying to do my own thing, still trying to see life. Because, like I said, for 22 years, I lived in this abusive situation. I didn't know anything else. Yes, I had a car then, but still, I didn't. It's like the freedom wasn't there. It's like I'm living in a box. I can't get out. Now I'm out of the box. Now
Hmm.
I'm like it's like a whole new world. Now I want to go explore. I want to go look. I want to go do some things. I want to hang out with some people. I want to see what the nightlife is really about. So that was really, and then like my mom, like I said, the one who had been there, like resentment came toward her. It was still there. I didn't deal with it, but now she sees the road. Like it's
Hmm.
true. The parents can see before you can see. And even now, being grown, that I've grown in Christ, there's still some things my mama can see that I can't see, and she be having to tell me, "Hey, I don't know about that," and I'm just like, "We got the same Holy Ghost. Why can't I get that revelation?" She was just like, "You can. You just don't be paying attention." And I'm just like, "Okay, mama." But at that time, she could see what I was doing. She could see what was going on. She was just like, "Hey, you need to slow down. You need to work on yourself." I'm just like, "I'm grown. Don't tell me what to do. I'm grown. Don't tell me nothing." And every time it's like, and then I started rebelling too. Rebellion is real also because people don't think none of this stuff is real. And I'm like, it's real until when you have to deal with it, but it's real. Like take somebody's word for it, it's definitely real. Like I started rebelling very like hard because people tell me no, 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 no. But mind you, I've been told for no 22 years. Now I'm out of it. Your no don't mean nothing to me now. Now I can make the decision. So now your no it's okay, but it's gonna be my yes because now I'm grown. I can make the decision, and I have the vehicle. Now I can make the decision. So that kind of started up and down. But what kind of made me had a turning point was throughout this point I was sexually assaulted,
Hmm.
and being sexually assaulted changed my entire world. It flipped it upside down. And I have always been told don't go here with these men. I always been warned. Warning comes before destruction. I've been getting warned, been being told to slow down, to stop, just stop. But I'm just like, nope, I'm a girl. I can handle myself. I can do it. I'm gonna do what I want. And after that assault, I was actually like March 11th, 2023. Never forget it. So after that, I definitely it's like all and I kept running from things. So mind you, after being out of the abuse situation, I never dealt with it. Never, I held it on without giving it to God. So I just held on to it. I never really fully gave it to him and fully trusted him to like heal me from it. I just kept it and I just kept doing other things. But after being assaulted, that definitely put me down like a spiraling path because some I have some like up and down days. Some low moments I'll be like, okay, everything's fine. And some moments I'm just like, I am low, like beyond low. And I started like using things as a coping mechanism. So I started drinking, started smoking, started partying a lot because I wanted to numb the pain, numb. And every time I felt something creeping up, I'm either running to a bottle or I'm running to a vape or I'm doing something to numb the pain. But the second part was my turning point was I went out with some friends and it was like a tailgate we had. It was a homecoming tailgate and God was drinking, taking drinks from people, which like I said, I started doing things that I never did. But I was taking drinks from people. And that night, like I came home, drove myself home under the influence, which you never do. But it was nothing but the grace of God that allowed me to get home.
Mhm.
Because the state of mind that I was in, like I remember driving home and getting into the car, and then I called one of my friends, and she started telling me some things. I started telling her. She's after a while, I started hallucinating. I said there's an octopus coming out my ceiling. I started telling her that, I had spiders coming. I had braids at the time. So I was like, are there spiders coming out? I have snakes coming out of my hair. And she's like, no, those are your braids. And she's like, I gotta pull them out. I gotta pull the snakes out. And she was just like, you're gonna be bald in the morning, don't do that. But then she said it took a turn when I started telling her that I can't breathe. It's hard for me to breathe.
Mm.
Yeah, I started telling her the floor is moving. And I said, there's something, I could hear something like running. And my aunt told me like I had my sink running. But in that time, I didn't know that was the sink. I was like, I hear something running. I don't know what that is. And she was just like, she's like, Michaelia, so she's like, something's wrong. So she called my aunt who lived around the corner of us from the time. She called my aunt and said, hey, something's wrong with her. She's hallucinating. You need to get to her. And my aunt said she had called me, and from what she had heard on the phone, she could tell something was wrong. So she coming, and my friend, she said she was just trying to talk to me, keep me alert until she get there. And she was like, "Michaelia, just hold on, just hold on." And I kept telling her, "I just want to die. I just want to die." And at that moment, it felt like everything I had been running from, hiding from, trying to suppress, was like at this point it came up, and there was no running from it. There was no suppressing it. There was nothing I could do, but like it just felt like being in a storm,
Mhm.
being in the water, like just being like it's a storm just coming over you, and the waves they just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like being in a wave pool. Like they start off slow and then it gets bigger. That's kind of how I felt. I felt like everything was just. I kept doing things to suppress the wave, but the waves just grew and grew and grew to now it's like they're overtaking me at this point. So I just felt like in that moment, I'm being told this because I don't remember it after that. She was just telling me that I kept saying I just wanted to die. I kept telling her that it was hard for me to breathe. And she was like, by this point, my aunt has made it to the house and she's beating on the door, trying to get me to come downstairs. And I was like, I could barely stand. So by the time I stood up, I had fell right back down. And she was like, crawl, crawl, crawl. And I'm just like, I crawl. And my aunt said she could hear me stumbling. She hid in the door to try to keep me alert, but she could hear me falling. And she's like, she's just praying, like, Lord, don't let her hit her head on nothing to where she can't
Mhm.
get back up. But she was just like, she said, by the time I opened the door, that was it. I went unconscious. And when I came to, my aunt was in there praying for me. My aunt dad had came. My mama was in there. My sister was in there. My friend that I called, she came. And like, I just woke up and I was just like, where, like, I don't remember what happened. And people were like certain bits and pieces was coming too, but I couldn't really remember. My mom said she would show me people that I know now. I mean, that I always knew, but she's like I would look at them, but I couldn't say their name. One of my she's my accountability. She's like a big sister to me, but she came. We go to the same church. She came and everything. They were just praying. They were just like, Lord, let her come too. And my mom was just praying, like, let her memory come back because I couldn't remember a lot. And my thing was that night, that was my turning point because I was just like, how did I get here?
Mhm.
Yes, I've given my life to Christ. Yes, I've done this. But how did I get to this point? How did I allow the deception of the enemy like come in so much to where now I'm at this point? I'm questioning if am I really saved? Like that was my turning point for me because I'm just like, how? How did this happen? How? So that night I just prayed. I was like, Lord, how did this happen to me? Like, how did I get it? And the only thing that brought to my spirit was Peter when he was walking on the water towards Jesus
Mhm.
and how he took his eyes off of him. He started to sink. So in that moment, like I said, me giving my life to Christ was the beginning. It was the turning point because I had my eyes on him. I was walking toward him. I was on fire for him, but I took my eyes off of him and I started to sink.
Mhm.
And in that moment, he cried out for him and he came and he rescued him. And in that moment, that's how he should like when I cried out for him, because at that point I just felt like I was drowning after I went unconscious. I just felt like, at this point, this is life. my life. This is the end of my life. But in that moment, when I called out for where I called out for Jesus, He came and He rescued me. So in that moment, I just like, Lord, if you give me another chance, if you give me another opportunity to live, to make it, to beat this, I'll take it and I'll run with it. And I've been doing that ever since, because I'm just like, it's more than to just like, Lord, I know you gave your life for me, but now it's like it hits me to another point. It's just like, even yet in the midst of my sin, you kept me. In the midst of me doing wrong, you still had your hand on me. You still didn't let me die. And there's many times where the enemy tried to take me out. Many times. Me being assaulted was the prime one, because I had to physically fight my way up out that situation. And that night, the police that came to the house, like taking my statement, doing all that, they were just like, you know what, you're lucky. He said, you're lucky. And the lieutenant, it's different when the lieutenant come out and talk to you. He said, nah, she not lucky, she blessed. He said, we've seen a lot of situations when women don't come out like this. But the
Mm.
fact that I fought my way out, I said, Lord, you kept me, you orchestrated. I like, Lord, you gave me strength to show me that I'm stronger than what I think I am. I'm not strong in my mind, I'm stronger in you. No matter what I go through, is if I lean on you, if I'm doing it in you, I can overcome it. So those were my two turning points of my life that made me like, you know what, I can go through it and I can beat it.
Wow. Wow. Again, such a powerful back end to the story because it immediately makes me go back to again to the question, to the title of the show is if pain could teach you something, and immediately what comes to mind as you were sharing this other side to the story, the coming up out of it, is the one part of what pain can teach you is that um, you can't do life without God.
You can't,
You were
cannot.
going through what you were going through, doing the best you could to survive it all. But it was a weight, it was a burden that was too big for you. And God had to allow the situation to play out the way that it did because it was His way of drawing you closer to Him. For you to get to that point where you say, okay, I recognize, I identify the fact that this is too big for me, and it's okay for things in life to be too big for you, because if there was never anything that was too big for us, we would have no purpose, we would have no need to lean on God. God is
Right.
saying, I love you like nobody else could ever love you. I can
Mhm.
do things for you that nobody else can do for you. Sometimes I have to allow storms to come your way, and I have to allow them to be intense to the point to where you don't have anybody but me to rely upon. And so
Right.
it starts off with you transitioning into giving your life to Christ. But then I also glad that you pointed out the fact that when we give our life to Christ, as big and as monumental of a decision that is, you don't transform over, you transform spiritually overnight, but in terms of what you've been practicing in your flesh, it takes time to work through that.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it takes a while to, you don't just snap the finger and then all of a sudden in that moment, as soon as you get dipped, that you don't struggle anymore. And more importantly, you get that if you thought that you had a target on your back before, you
You
definitely going
got
to have one now because the
now.
enemy is not pleased with the decision that you made. So if you thought he was in your ear before, if you thought he was gunning for you before, he's going to come at you in ways that you just when you thought you had seen it and heard it all, he's coming at you even harder because he's not pleased with your decision, and anything that he can do to distract you, to get you off base, which in this scenario where you talked about, you used the you made the reference to Peter about taking his eyes off of Jesus when he's saying he was able to walk that water as long as he didn't take his eyes off. As soon as he took his eyes off, boom, now he's drowning, now he's struggling. And so again, even after you get saved, there are moments, and I have my own personal testimony to that. There are moments that even after being saved, that don't get the confusion into your mind and thinking that all of a sudden you no longer gonna go through stuff, that you no
Right.
longer are gonna, if anything, the attacks are gonna elevate.
They
But
come
and they're
harder.
gonna come harder and faster. And you might, and for one who's not saved, you might be saying to yourself, well, why would I want to get saved if it's going to only get tougher? Well, it get the storms and the attacks might come at you more frequently and more stringent, but it's because of who you got with you. Because you got
It's,
God with you, He allows you to be able to withstand and endure it much easier than what you would have been able to do had you been still operating in a solo mode. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, as unfortunate as sexual assault is, and don't wish that on anybody, again, he had to allow a storm to come your way that was significant enough that it would get your attention, that you knew that by going through that and then some other subsequent things, that it had to, in order to get your eyes back on him, to refocus, to get reset. And he didn't, but notice he didn't let it go far enough to where it destroyed you. He could have let it go that far, but he didn't. He said, "No, I'm not going to let it destroy you, but I got to take it. I got to allow it to get to just to that point to where I can get you back on track and be focused with me." The first thing was to get you to me. Now the next thing is to keep you with me. I don't want. I want to make
Yes.
sure that you understand the commitment level that you just signed up for. That following me is not just some random thing that you do on a Sunday morning because you didn't have anything better to do. No, you got to understand that you're in for war now. This is a spiritual warfare. It's an ongoing 24-hour a day, 7-day event. It's not a thing that you get ready for. You got to stay ready. And
All
so
day,
the,
every
the,
day. You
the
got
best
to have
way,
wake up with the
yeah,
armor on.
you got to wake up with it. It's like you got to go bed with it and wake up with it. You got to
Yes.
stay ready because it's going to come. But you can be okay with knowing that it's going to come because the fact that you're prepared. You go through the preparation mode with that, which is you stay prayed up, you stay in the Word, you stay close to Him, you consistent with that, and so I stay ready. I know it's going to come. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how intense it's going to be, but I don't stress about it anymore because I know I'm ready for it. Not because of me, but because of who I belong to, because of who I'm connected with, who I'm relationship with. That's how I know I'm going to be able to overcome it. It's never going to be about me because there's simply some storms out there that's just going to be bigger than us, but it's none that's going to be out there that's bigger than him. And
That.
so as long as I got that, I'm good to go. Bring it.
Yes.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I could take this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have my moment when it happens. I'm gonna have to have that pause moment where I got to either let some tears out or scream or something, whatever that is. But I'm not gonna be stuck there no more. Like in the past, I would have been stuck there. I would have marinated in that, drowned in it, and let the devil get into my ear and have me thinking suicidal thoughts or have me thinking that there's no way to out of this situation. But now I don't have to worry about it anymore. I have my moment, and then I say, "Okay, God, what we getting ready to do with this? You give me the steps I need to take. Tell me what I need to do. If I need to sit still, I sit still. If you need me to do this or say that or move here or go there, let me give me the guidance, give me the direction, and I'm and out of obedience and faith, I'm going to follow that guidance from you and do what it is that you need me to do to work through that. And the more you're able to do that, and you start getting those testimonies, notches, if you will, in your belt of being able to, in your dependence upon Christ, to get through difficult times, you now are able to be in moments like this one we are in today, where you're sharing the testimony of overcoming difficult times. You're able to put your story in a book to talk about that. You'll be on other stages. We get to speak to people who need to hear what you've gone through and how you are still standing in spite of what you've gone through. So, yeah, pain does teach us something. It teaches us to not think that we can, that we can conquer it all by ourselves, and it teaches us to keep our eyes on Him. That when you get in a
That.
relationship, keep your eyes locked on Him at all times. Don't
Mhm.
shift. Don't shift because when you do that, it puts you in a vulnerable situation. It exposes you, and the enemy
Mhm.
is always looking for that opportunity that you
Opportunity.
give because he can't on his own. He can't do anything to you. But
Mhm.
if I give him an opening,
You can take.
and God says, okay, if he allows it, because he has to allow that storm to come your way. But if he thinks that it's necessary for that storm to come your way, not to punish you, not to hurt you, but to get you back on focus, to get your eyes back on, he'll let that come in so you can, okay, okay, Michaela, okay, Joe, and you done took your
This.
eyes off me. I need you to get you back on focus here. So let me let this come through to shake things up a little bit so you can get back get your eyes back on me. So we can continue doing the works that I have set for you to do. So you can continue to walk in that purpose that I have set for you to walk in. So powerful, powerful sharing of that. And I appreciate you doing so because people need to hear this and people need to understand the importance of the relationship and the importance of the pain. Don't resist the pain. It is what it is. The storms, it's not a matter of if, but when. The storms are going to come your way. It's how you respond in those
That's
moments.
it.
Do you know how you're going to be able to respond? And understanding that you can't respond in your own strength. that there's got to be a higher level, a divine relationship connection that you got to be involved in, and we know him to be Christ. That's the relationship that you got to be in if you're going to be able to withstand and overcome all of the storms of different levels of different intensities that are going to come across your way over the course of your life. So that's just part of the journey. That's what gets you battle tested, and that allows you to be a testimony and be of use to God in the advancement of His kingdom. To be able to testify to other people through your challenges, and lastly, to say to that is more times than not, and it took me a while to understand this too. A lot more times than not, the pain that we go through, it was never about us anyway. That God specifically selected you to go through it, not because, again, he was trying to hurt you or anything like that, but he might have specifically allowed you to go through it because he's setting you up to be able to help somebody that you may not have even met yet. That they're going to need to hear your story, but he decided for you to go through it so you will be relatable to them when you come alongside them and pour into them. You'll be able to speak to them because go back to what you said in the very beginning of your story when you talked about not being heard. You can't hear me if you ain't been through what I've been through. If you ain't gone through nothing, you can't hear me. You can't relate to me. I don't need your book answer. I don't need your I don't need your degreed talking point. I need you to relate to what I'm going through and be able to speak to me in a way that connects, that resonates with me. When God allows us to go through our storms in life, that by default positions us to be able to relate to other people who are going to hear our stories, hear our testimonies. The more we're willing to share, the more we're willing to be transparent and open up to that, they're able to receive that and be like, wow, okay. And they can look at you and they can see your strength and see, you survived all of that? Yes. How'd you do it? Well, let me first tell you about the relationship, and then we'll go from there. Where you at on that? Because that's the biggest portion of it all right there. Let me show you the way, and then now you give people some hope that they too can overcome. Some of those moments of challenge and adversity that at first, or maybe in that moment, they're thinking, "There's no way out of this. I can't get." Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You got to put the cape down and trying to be a superhero and trying to fix yourself. That's not your lane. That's not your purpose. So again, appreciate you sharing that. So so Michaela, when you do find yourself going through challenging times, I mean, obviously you've talked about some deep and heavy stuff, but we all know that sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's just regular day to day annoyances, life and type stuff. But when you do find yourself going through difficult or challenging moments, whatever the level of intensity of it is, what is it specifically that you like to do that kind of helps you to process and deal with moments of challenges and adversities that just kind of works best for you? If you would share that with us.
So what I like to do is the first thing is I gotta have me a pause moment. Like you talk about that pause, I got to have a pause moment because, like I said, being saved, all your problems do not go away, but it's easier with God on your side than, like you said, trying to do it by yourself. So I gotta have a pause moment because that flesh side may want to rise up and want to say something, want to have some feelings, but I gotta have a pause moment to collect myself, calm myself down, and then let me go to my heavenly Father and talk to him about this because he's seen it before it was gonna happen. So you already know how I'm feeling because I be telling people all the time, I'm one of God's special kids. Like, he got to hit me upside my head for me to get something. But
Mm-hmm.
just going to say that after I had a moment to kind of calm down and collect myself because people just like I go to God and I said, you sometimes I gotta bring that self down because sometimes I be ready to rah rah rah. I'm like, I'm about to go to my heavenly Father. I gotta bring myself down. I gotta humble myself. I could be
Mm-hmm.
angry,
Mm-hmm.
but I need to be calm while I go to him. Like that, I'll stand on that firmly. Like if you go to God, I mean, yes, go to him how you are. If you are hurt, if you gotta cry it out and you just talking to him, do that. But if you just upset, like sometimes I be having to bring myself down because when I'm upset, I sometimes, like I said, the flesh be want to rise and say
Mm-hmm.
some things. I'm like, you know what, let me calm down because I'm about to pray. Lord, I need you to, I don't want to be the same way, but Lord, I need to. But when I do pray, I talk it out first. I get it out. I'm like, God, I'm hurting. Lord, I'm angry because they doing this to me and that ain't right. And I get all of it out. And then I go into a moment where I'm like, Lord, I need you to come meet me where I'm at. I need you to carry me through this. I need you to show me. I need you to minister to me. So in that moment, I just pray and I ask God to give me direction. And God is like, after I get it out, because I don't want to, because when you talk, it's like saying people like, you got to get it out. You can't let that sit in there. Because even if you just be like, oh, I just pray about it and I go about my day, I'm like, that works. But see, with me, when I pray, I get specific.
Mm-hmm.
I tell God, I get with the real nitty gritty. Cause God knows, like I said, He know you better than you know yourself. Cause He created you. So I get it all out. I'm like, Lord, you know, tomorrow I'm gonna have an attitude. And I said, but I gotta get this out. I gotta get it all out. And after I get it out, then I feel like He can come in and deal with me. Because at this point, everything He tells us to cast all our cares upon Him because He cares for us. So why? I'm defeating the purpose if I'm coming to the altar, if I'm coming before Him, or coming before the throne, laying it all out there, and then I take it back. That
Mm-hmm.
defeats the purpose of praying.
Right.
So when I pray and I'm upset or something, I'm been offended, I get it out. I lay it out. Then I ask Him to come in and deal with me where I'm at, because I'm not all the way there. I'm still growing as a believer and a follower of Christ. So there's some things He has to walk me through. There's some things He has to show me. There's some things He has to deal with me on. Show me myself. So after I pray, then I turn to like praise and worship. At first, I used to like I had to switch because if after I get mad and stuff, like I normally go to like a video game, like I play UFC, because that's like me releasing my anger.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to learn that's like it's like I wouldn't say a trick of the enemy, but it just like it kind of puts those thoughts in my mind a little bit. Like, you know what? I can imagine myself beating up that person or beating up whoever. I said that I don't want that in my spirit. I don't want that in my daily day. So I had to like learn. I said, and then I'll go straight to the game. I wouldn't even pray. So I'm just like, it's taking God's position away.
Mm.
It's taking His place. Because before I can even pray to Him, I'm thinking about, when I get home, I'm gonna have to get on this game and I'm gonna put on my music and I'm gonna fight this out. And I'm just like, no, that's not what God had to deal with me Himself, because like I said, I had to do that. I just started, like, not I would say just, but like I had to adapt praying about it first. And then even after that, if I'm like, well, Lord, now I still got these feelings and everything. I said, Lord, I need to release this. Then I go to work out.
Mm.
Working out is my stress relief, because I go in there, I put on that gospel rap. I done took that pre-workout and I get in there and I be hitting them weights and going everywhere. And it just, but by the time, and then they got a punching bag. So look, it's a ram in the bush. I don't have to use the game no more. I go in there,
Right.
I hit that bag a couple of times, get that feelings out. And by the time I leave, I feel lighter. But see, like even with the music I'm choosing to do, like I'm still like it's telling me like, certain ones are like inspirational gospel rap and stuff. Like I have all types of different gospel rap in my phone. But for my workout playlist, I have like a combination of like, hard gospel rap, the ones that like rap about the Bible verses. And then you got the one that's like more like inspirational gospel rap, giving you like that positive hope. So it's like a combination of both. So I got the one like I'm listening to the word and I'm also getting like that feeling like, okay, everything's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be all right. So by the time I leave this, like I done took God with me through the whole thing. So that helps me. So praying and working out, and of course coming back home, having that quiet moment, reading the word, reflecting, and then also writing down what I'm feeling, writing down my prayer journal. And then like I just started this, so I'm praying that it keeps going. But I just started like, writing down what I feel and going in the word and finding the scriptures that go with what I'm feeling. So it's just like replacing what I feel with the truth. And
Gotcha.
you place the lie with the truth. The truth is gonna stand. So I just started this because, like I said, it's like you got to find what works for you. You got
Mm-hmm.
to go through. So, like I said, my main ones are now praying, going to work out, and replacing the lies with the truth.
Love that. Love that. Absolutely. So, Michaelia, if you had a chance to, when you think back on all that you've gone through just in these 24 years of life and the challenges, the days where you didn't feel heard, the days that your self esteem was down, and where you even those days where you were contemplating, the enemy is in your head trying to get you to contemplate even taking your life. If you had a chance to speak to the younger Michaelia as she was dealing with those moments, or even specifically somebody could be listening right now, a young lady out there, young man out there who's having those same thoughts, those same feelings in their head, and they don't know what to do, and they're about ready to give up. What would be your words of encouragement? that you would offer to inspire them that there's a different way to go about this, and the process dealing with moments like that you've had to go through in such an early stage in your life?
I would say it's easier said than done, but I would say release it. And that's like I said, it's easier said than done. People's like, oh, what do you mean release it? Like, what I mean is like deal with it, like pray about it, because a lot of people, you have to release it. I would encourage anybody who's believer or non-believer, give it to God, because He's the only one that's strong enough to handle what we have went through. Because you got to think about it, Jesus walked this earth too. So he knows he's praying, he's making intercession for us. So he knows what it feels like when you're tired. He knows what it feels like when you've been hurt. He knows what it feels like. He knows because he's walked this earth too. So he's the only one that knows how to deal with it, that can handle it. So I would say pray about it, give it, but you gotta release it.
Mm-hmm.
You and then not feeling heard, you are heard. Even if it's not the hurt that you wanted for somebody, or it's the hurt that you really want from the person who's causing you this, you are being heard. Jesus hears you and sees you every single day. So if you don't want to, I would like, my main thing is pray about it. And when you pray, like I said, if you pray how pray works, but people have their different methods how they pray. But however you release it, give it to them. And when you give it all to them, leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard for me because, like I said, after I got saved, I gave it to him, but then I took it back
Yep.
because I'm just like, I gotta give it to him and leave it with him because he's gonna deal with it, and then trust what he's going to do with it. Because, like I said, my pain turned into power for me. My pain turned into passion for me because now I'm able to be abroad about it and speak about it. And when you think about it, you're gonna have those moments, and give yourself grace. And another thing I would say is forgive, which is whoo,
Hmm.
that right there. Forgiveness is a hard one. It took me years to forgive my father. It took me years, and being that now he's up in age and I have to now take care of him and help him out. I still have my moments. I'm human. I'm not going to sit here that healing is it's a journey. It's not permanent. Some things God deliver you from that's definitely permanent. But you choose to stay delivered. You could go back to it, but I wouldn't even tell you to do that. You deliver, stay delivered. But forgiveness is what I'm learning is a journey. You gotta go through it day by day. You gotta choose. Like like he tells us in Matthew, you have to anybody that wants to follow me has to deny themselves daily, pick up their cross and follow him. So daily you gotta choose to forgive. Cause the enemy's always waiting. He gonna hit you early in the morning. You look what you this that. So you gotta choose that the way you choose to follow Christ daily and take up your cross, you gotta choose to forgive this person daily, which is something I had to learn to do because I thought, okay, well, I forgave him, that's it. But I'm learning that this is a journey because every day I'm like, you know what? It's not a thought that don't come. I will be lying said not a thought that come to my mind that I don't think what my life could have been like if my father was like this or if he was like that. And all this stuff you done did to me. Now look where you are. Now you need my help. But that's where grace and forgiveness comes in. So praying is the first thing, getting it out and releasing it. Then forgiving, being able, and there's two parts of forgiveness: forgiving them and forgiving yourself. Forgiving yourself is was my hardest part because I was just like, some things I've forgiving yourself for what you did not know what to do, but then forgiving yourself for doing stuff that you knew not to do. That was for me. I mean, there's some stuff I say, well, I forgive myself because I just did not know how to handle that. But then I had to forgive myself because I knew better and I should have did better, but I didn't do better. So forgiving yourself and giving yourself grace and giving those grace because you don't know just as much as you went through, you don't know what they had to go through or
Mm-hmm.
what made them them. You don't know that. And then that's a whole nother thing when you start dealing with the forgiveness of that's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they were brought up. That takes and mind you, you can't just forgive in your own self. You gotta forgive with Christ. You gotta do it with him. Because if your forgiveness and his forgiveness is not the same. That I definitely had to learn because I'm like, well, God, I forgave him, and it was like, no, you didn't, because you're still mad and you're still handling it like this. But
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness, and praying about it is what I would say, and also just listen. If you have somebody that is telling you, stop, slow down, take, don't be afraid to be the odd one out, because like I said, growing up, I wanted to fit in so bad because I didn't have that validation, and it caused me to like do a lot of peer pressure things. And the pressure I'm learning now, this generation, what they have to deal with, what I dealt with, seemed like a cakewalk for me, because this generation is different. What they got to deal with, the pressure that's on them. But don't be afraid to be the one that's different, the oddball, the square, as people. I mean, that's what they were saying. My generation, the
Mm-hmm.
square. But don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to be the one like, nah, I'm good. I don't got to do that. Be the one that go after the good things. You know, if you want to be book smart, you want to go after that, and like, oh, you lame, you want to be inside. Well, now it's the streets, and you want to be inside. That's what it is. If you want to be the one like, nah, I'll be in the house, I'm cool, and you don't want to be in the streets, that's okay. That's fine. If you want to be one of the ones that's like, well, I'm gonna work hard now and I'm gonna party later, like party, not like worldly party, but like party, like, I want to celebrate, I want to travel, do all that, then I want to work hard and grind now, that's fine. Like, don't be afraid of the one that stands out. Don't be the don't be afraid to be that. Embrace who you are. Embrace being different. Embrace being just who you are, who God created you to be. Embrace that. And don't be afraid for the persecution, because you're going to always have somebody got something to say until the day you leave this earth. So they going to say something regardless whether you out there doing it with them or you not out there doing it with them. They going to have something to say. But
Mm-hmm.
embrace that. Like, if you don't want to do it and people are telling you not to do it, listen and embrace that. Because Tom knows I wish I could go back and listen to those times. If I would have just, especially on the traumatic moments, I wish I would have, you know what, if I would have just listened, if I would have just been obedient to what the Holy Spirit was telling me and what my mom and my uncle was telling me, I wouldn't have had went through this. I wouldn't have had to do this like that. But, it was all designed and purpose for me to go through it. But listen and be obedient, and don't be afraid to be you.
Love that. Love that. You couldn't have said it any better. So many nuggets in your story, so many nuggets in your words of encouragement and wisdom to offer back to our listeners. So, Michaela, I definitely do appreciate you sharing as you have today, so powerfully, so transparently, so openly. I know I was blessed by your story, and I'm pretty certain that those who tune in are going to be blessed by it as well. Such growth in you spiritually, and just understanding the importance of obedience and forgiveness, and just the meaning behind storms as a whole, that they're not designed to hurt you, but they're opportunities for growth, they're opportunities for development, to make you a better version of who you are, and allow you to be more usable by God, to share and pour into the lives of others. So definitely appreciate you, and have thoroughly enjoyed having you on the podcast today. But before we let you go, as is customary here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, we want to take an opportunity to love on you, to celebrate you, to acknowledge you. So if you got anything exciting that's going on, either right now, coming up, professionally and or personally, it doesn't matter. Please share that with us, because again, we want to celebrate you, we want to love on you, and know how can we be of support to you. So please, what we got to look forward to going on with you right now, or coming up. What's going on?
So I have a lot of projects that I want to do, but so far, season 5, again, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, season 5 is coming up. I had to take some time out because holidays and things like that nature. But we have actually set a time. It's gonna be a little bit later than I initially wanted it to, but season 5 is coming out. I'm excited, and like I have a whole new direction of how I want to take the show this time. The last 4 seasons was pretty cool, but this one is actually like, what? We got everything like we got things like in line, we got different things we working out. I'm just like, I'm gonna love this season as I've loved all my other seasons, because I just love having a chance to talk to people and just like be broad about it and have other people to come on and share their story and have a place to come and feel comfortable to share themselves and don't have to feel like, I don't know, what can I say? What can I say? If it's your story, it's your story. You
Mm-hmm.
got to be embrace, like I said, embrace that. But I'm so excited for season 5 to be coming out. Again, we have like a whole new way we're going with it this time. I say we because I have some people that's working with me, which also makes it, a little bit better. I'm excited because now it's just been me solo dolo for these past 4 seasons, and now I'm getting like a lot of I'm getting some assistance, some being people coming in helping me. So I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna love this season. Like this season's gonna be like different, but also I also having the process of like my book becoming a workbook. That was something I've been wanting to do for since I wrote the book. I was like, I need a workbook with this. This needs a workbook to go through it. But I'm excited. It's a project that I'm currently still working on. I have no like details of like when it's expected to be released, but I am excited that I am starting the process. I got it's 12 chapters in the book, so we gotta have 12 parts of the thing. So, but I'm also excited about the workbook, and I'm also, working on some like things like with production because I would definitely have envisioned my book becoming a play. So I definitely just, asking for people to just like, keep me up in prayer when it comes down to those things that the Lord is with me. He is leading me and guiding me through each and every, avenue, business position. But like I said, I also am going back into for my junior year. I have one more year after this and I am done with school. So I am excited because then I feel like that's really like the reins are like I could take off because now I got to worry about nothing. I could just then go. I could just shift it to my career, which I feel like my career is already like it's already taken off right now. But it's just like now at that moment I can really indulge head full
Awesome.
into
That
the.
is that is awesome. That is so awesome. Super excited for you. And for people who want to connect with you, to support, to be a part of, to keep up with any events that are coming up or anything like that. What's the best way for them to do that?
I am on Instagram and TikTok for now because they keep saying TikTok is going to get banned. But for now, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. On Instagram, it's the real Michaelia. Michaelia is spelled Michaelia on Instagram. And it's the same way on TikTok. On Facebook, you can find me at Michaelia Nobles, no spaces. I mean, with one space, no caps. Also, you can follow me on my YouTube channel. It's at The Real One TV. And then also my podcast is on Instagram as well at the Just Keep It Real podcast. I am on iHeart, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and a lot of other platforms. But those are the best ways. If you really want to connect with me, Instagram is the best way to go.
All right, all right. Well, you heard it here from the real one.
The
Uh,
real,
so definitely, if you've been inspired, encouraged in any way by what her story has been and the different offerings that she has, please connect. Whether it's her podcast, her book, or any other means that you can offer up some support or just encouraging words and prayers for her. She's allowing God to use her in a mighty way, and we don't want to minimize that in any regard. And it's just going to get better and bigger and greater from moving on from this point forward. And again, I'm excited for you and celebrating you right now, and we'll continue to do so moving forward. Thank you so much again for being a part of the show, and for my listeners. Again, I hope you've enjoyed our time together here, sharing the story, a powerful story that she's given to us today. Been inspired, been uplifted, been encouraged. If that has been the case and you've enjoyed the Blessings in the Street podcast for today, please share, please like, please subscribe, please comment, because this is what it's all about. This is why we do what we do. Sharing these testimonies with you, being transparent, being vulnerable, because we understand the importance of knowing that you're not the only one that's going through difficult times, and that there is a way through. There is a way to overcome such challenging moments. But it does begin, and we don't take this lightly. It does begin with understanding the importance of having a relationship with God, because the reality is there's just some storms that are just simply too big for you, for me, for any of us in our human condition to handle on our own. But we serve a loving God that's out there that just wants nothing but the best for you, and just wants you to lean on him, to tap into his comfort, to his provisions, to his way making. He's there for you. He wants to give you all the comfort that you need, all the direction, all the wisdom, all the guidance that there is to give. All you have to do is trust in him. And I promise you, and I'm sure Michaela will testify to this, that if this is a decision that you haven't made prior to now, not only is this a great day to make it, but it'll be the best decision that you'll ever make. It'll be life changing, game changing for you. And I promise he will not disappoint. I don't care what it is that you got going on or been through. There's nothing too big for him. So with that said, thank you again for tuning in. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Welcome you so much for being a part of this experience with us today on the Blessings in the Street podcast. And remember, as always, that this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I look forward to seeing you once again. Please continue to tune in. Please continue to support and be a part of this experience as we bring in more exciting guests to share their stories of how great God has been and moving in our lives and making ways out of no way. He is able. He is great. He is wonderful. He is love at the highest of all levels. And I'm just so thankful to have him in my life. And I want to have him in yours as well and be a part of all of your experiences and anything that you touch and do. So until next time, I look forward to seeing you again. Take care of yourselves and have a great rest of your day.
You too, guys.
All right. All right.